magnificent author. He's also a marvelous correspondent, working out with ball9.com. And let me tell you, we've chatted with Chris Vitale and Kevin Kernan from there. And now we get the Constantino, Rocco Constantino. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Always great to sit here and talk baseball. And
first and foremost, this particular postseason is, we know it's different. Everything's weird. Everything's different. Yada 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 yada. But boy, does it emphasize how icky the baseball has been in this truncated season. When you have games where there's nearly, let's say, in 50% of certain games, plate appearances, strikeouts in those plate appearances, nearly 50%. This, and the base running. Don't even get me started on the base running. We've seen a lot of ugliness so far, Rocco.
It's been painful to watch, and usually you know the teams will raise their level of play in the postseason, and you know it's been a sloppy season from that standpoint all along. The spotlight was a little bit more intense, or what it was, but the strikeouts were alarming. The base running, especially in that Reds game, was awful. Just that lack of fundamentals, I think, really shows when the pressure is a little bit tighter.
Yeah, well, we'll get away from that. Let's concentrate on a team that had, a fairly glorious night, and then in Game 2 when they sweep Cleveland, a night of ridiculous Major League Baseball rain delay decisions. Oh, my. It was a high-scoring affair with Cleveland. Indians could have sent it to a Game 3. Doesn't happen. We have more... the return of sloppy defense. We have the return of dubious decisions done by skipper Aaron Boone. Yet, somehow, the Yanks move on to face their vaunted and hated rivals, supplanting the Red Sox in many people's minds in those Tampa Bay Rays. But just your thoughts on the Yanks in their two games against Cleveland, because, jeepers, it just doesn't sit well with me getting ready for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I agree. They're going to have to pick up their play against Tampa. Tampa's one of the teams that, I mean, they have an argument that they look the best in the first round, just as far as fundamentals are concerned and pitching. They had the batting going, but back to that Yankees-Indian series, Yankee fans for years will be referring to that as the Gio Urshela game. You know, with his hitting, the play he made in the eighth inning from his behind. But, sloppy overall. I kind of thought the Indians would give a little bit of a better fight. It was big. I think Judge setting that tone early against Bieber, hitting that home run in the first inning against him, that really sent a message. I think that knocked the Indians on their heels a little bit. The Yankees... they might not have played fundamentally great, but they had that big Yankee postseason presence that we're used to seeing.
Yeah, well, once Bieber was gotten to, so to speak, and not just one run, because even Bieber, like at DeGrom, could give up one run. But when you touch him for more, I kind of felt that was it for the Tribe, because as much as they have some nice pitching here and there, they no longer have that kind of magnificent starting staff. Neither do the Yankees, but the Yankees have a much better lineup. Strikeouts aside, they have a much better lineup on paper if you go 1 through 9 than Cleveland does.
Oh, absolutely. And, I think the only guy that pitched any kind of decent gave it decent innings to Cleveland in that series was Phil Matone. I mean, every Brad Hand was getting, he wasn't effective. Carrasco not effective. Bieber. So, the Yankees lineup is clearly better. I mean, on paper before the season, we're saying that lineup was, it was probably them and the Dodgers for the two best lineups in the majors. If they're getting that kind of performance, that's the performance they need. Gardner having a big series was really key. Luke Voigt having a big series was really key too. Glaber, man, they couldn't get Glaber out either. So, and that's without even mentioning Judge, Stanton, LeMahieu. So if they're clicking on all cylinders like that, I think that's going to be what they need. I'd expect the Rays to pitch a little better than the Indians did, but we'll see. I mean, we there's the old adage, anything could happen in a short series, and we saw that in the first round. I think we'll see it here. And it'll be interesting to watch for sure.
Yeah, and there's no neutral, there's no comfort zone because, and despite the fans, you still like to play in your own stadium. You're familiar with everything from the restrooms to the locker rooms to whatever. So you always like to play in your own place, even if it's a puffalump joint like Tampa Bay has. But, so that's thrown out the window as they'll be out in California. But hey, I look at the Yankee team, and you mentioned guys who were coming through, offensively. One of the few really nice decisions that was made by either Boone or the analytic people was that Gardner should be playing, especially in game one against Bieber. Part of the reasoning, which wasn't necessarily documented, was defense, because you want to be careful with Clint Frazier, who I like very much, but he can be a delicate individual in terms of psyche. But Gardner's familiarity with the ballpark, etc., certainly played in his favor. His hitting in the postseason didn't play in the favor, but that's one decision that worked out. What worries me going in this series is that the Yanks didn't win the division. Tampa Bay did win the division, and I truly believe one of the reasons they won the division is that even if there are analytics and maybe some chirping bird in his ear, Cash, much better skipper than Aaron Boone.
I agree. I mean, Cash, you have a really legitimate. I mean, no disrespect for what Mattingly did in with the Marlins this year, but Cash, he might have been the best manager in baseball this year. He's highly respected. I think he does a good job of the mix of analytics and also still managing with your gut. You see them with the four outfielders. They did that close to 100 times in 60 games this year, and a lot of the analytics stuff is there, but you'll still see Cash, use his gut and use his knowledge, and he's a lifelong baseball guy who's smart, he's sharp, and you have to take advantage of that. If you sit there and just manage by the spreadsheet, like I think Boone is more apt to do, I'd always pick the manager that kind of uses their gut here and there.
Rocco Constantino is with us here on WLAD, outstanding contributor to Ball9.com, author of a fine book, 50 Moments That Defined Major League Baseball, that came out just a couple of years ago and is, I think, required reading, my friends, because it's not just like some little book of the month club book that comes in. It's tells you very quickly about the 50 moment. No, it's a great in-depth book that looks at a lot of different sides. So recommended reading, 50 Moments That Define Major League Baseball. But Rocco's with us. I got to ask you, if you had yourself a pick, Yanks, Tampa Bay, who you going with, Rocco?
Oh man, put me on the spot.
Sorry, babe.
I'm going to go Tampa. I hate to just go and pick the team that finished, as the number one overall seed. I always kind of try to look for the upsets here and there, but I just like the fact that they're more fundamentally sound. I like the way Cash handles the pitching staff. I did, and you mentioned, Gardner and the defense, and I like that what Boone did there, with stressing the importance of defense in the postseason. Not just with Gardner starting, but with Higashioka as the game one catcher over Sanchez. And you want that defense out there, and that's important. But I just think that it's going to be a tight series, and the Yankees are a little bit more reliant on the home run, and the Rays can create runs a little bit better when they need to. I think it'll be, a tough classic series. But I think I'm going to go with the Rays being able to pitch a little bit better, a little bit better bullpen depth and also better at creating runs.
I mentioned ball9.com, outstanding website. Kevin Kernan, who toiled for many years for the New York Post, is one of the main dudes. AMBS, America's most beloved sports writer. Of course, Chris Vitale involved, and Rocco as well. And you've got something out that's a little bit of a blast from the not too distant past, right?
Yeah, what I do is every Friday I catch up with a former major leaguer, and we just I do a fun half-hour phone interview with them, and then I write an article. Just the guys that you watched growing up. They're maybe not necessarily the superstars, but these are guys that have been on multiple teams, been around the game, playing in postseasons, playing in all-star games, and I just catch up with them, ask them how they got their start in baseball, how they fall in love with the sport, some memories about their careers, and then kind of what they're doing now. So it's been fun to talk to a lot of former major leaguers that way.
Yeah, and you may have even had their baseball cards, folks. And
a lot of them.
Yeah, most certainly. And before we run away, though, I have to ask you just a couple of quickie things. If you're looking at an MVP to the season for National League, American League, does it matter if they made the playoffs or not? And who would you be leaning toward?
I think it does. Especially in this season where you have 16 teams in the playoffs, it'd be hard for me to pick an MVP for a team that couldn't even get to 500 and get themselves in an expanded playoff field. To me, as great a season as Trout had, he still needs to, in my mind, get that team to the playoffs. To really be considered that MVP. And it's, I hate to say it because I truly believe he's the best player, and I would like for him to have been there, but I don't think I give it to. I've been thinking about this too. I wanted to give it to the two teams that I really think kind of are right on the cusp of really breaking out. I like Jose Abreu as the AL MVP. Tim Anderson was great. Luis Robert, Madrigal, those guys are so exciting. Like Abreu was that veteran presence that held them together. Kind of only disappointed that they got in as a 7th seed and they kind of slowed down there at the end. But I saw him as the glue that kind of held that all together as a veteran. He's just been so consistent.
And he showed up in so many offensive categories in the top 5 for the American League.
Yeah. I mean, he had 60 RBIs in a 60-game season. That's one of those easy at this pace things that you can figure out. I mean, translating to 162 when you spread it out that way. And on the NL side, I'm close between Tatis and Freddie Freeman. I think they give it to Freeman. I think the writers vote to Freeman as kind of he's finally got there. He's been close many times. He's a respected, deserving guy. And all the pitching injuries the Braves had too. He really had a great season. But I think I would go with my vote would go to Tatis on that. He's just added so much excitement to that Padres team. He gives them their swagger. It's a lot of the intangible stuff too. I love the way he plays shortstop. He runs the bases. Mookie Betts is another great consideration, especially with some guys in the Dodgers lineup. Didn't hit as much as they did in the past, but there's a lot of great candidates out there. But I'm going to go. I'm going to go with the Tatis, Abreu, 2 of the exciting teams in baseball.
Yeah, and with Tatis, I'll just mention that his presence and continued development has made people have to throw real pitches to other Padre players, thus making the Padres as a whole better because other guys just weren't seeing mutton. They were seeing some prime steak being thrown across the plate to them. because we don't want to face Fernando. No. So I think other people got better, or if they were people who had been on the downslide, things suddenly took an uptick for them.
I absolutely. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. That's it. You know, things were on the uptick for them.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's a great point because you know guys like Will Myers, Hosmer had a great year. Cronenworth came out of nowhere. That all I think revolves around Tatis and what you said. It's that presence in the lineup makes everybody better.
Hey, so before we go, Rocco, got another book coming out?
I do. The manuscript is in. We're working on the artwork on some of the other things. Very interesting book. It's called Beyond Baseball's Color Line, and it's a comprehensive history of African Americans in Major League Baseball. We go all the way back to the 1880s and start with the very first African American players to play in the majors and the lineage they have. Examine how the color line was drawn, how it was eroded and then broken. But it's also celebrating all the great African American players. There's a big chapter on the 70s and how they brought that personality to the game. Guys like Vida Blue and Dick Allen and even Mickey Rivers, Oscar Gamble, all this excitement, when baseball really came alive in the 70s. And then we look towards trends to the future. And, there's a great SABR study that tracked baseball demographics from 1947 all the way till today. And, it's the trends in African-American participation in Major League Baseball had gone down considerably from 94 for about a 15-year period. But now it's kind of leveled off and ticking up a little bit. So we kind of get into that a little bit too. So it was very interesting, very research-heavy. A lot of exciting interviews in that book too. And I was very happy with the finished product with that.
Well, we'll look forward to that. Folks can look forward to reading Rocco at ball9.com, and I highly recommend it. And they can keep tabs on him and find out more about the book coming down the pike, I am sure. Rocco Constantino, it has been an absolute pleasure to play catch-up with you, young man.
Thank you very much, Bart. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Rocco. And you just talked with the guy they made a movie about, Jim Morris there, the lefty. Dennis Quaid played him in the movies. Good stuff from Rocco. Hey, congratulations. Monica Schaefer of Bethel's going to see Chris Thiele. We forgot to mention